In this video, I'm doing a commentary on a match between Frank Frigo and Anthony Niakiani. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and what you'd like to see in future videos so I can work on that. My book, Backgammon, Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is in the description. Frank Frigo is well known in the backgammon community. He's a two-time world champion. I had the pleasure of meeting him and doing a seminar at the recent Los Angeles tournament. Outstanding player. This is the 2024 San Diego Club Championships. With two top players. This is the first match. Frank Frigo needs to win two matches. This match, and then second match, Anthony only needs to win one match. They're playing on Frank's beautiful talkie board. Frank is playing the black checkers at the bottom. Anthony is playing the white checkers at the top. This is an 11-point match. You can see the board on the main portion of the screen. Names of the players and their pip counts and scores above and below. The images of the players are to the left, and I've enlarged the dice so you can see them to the left of the board. The XG feed is on the lower left and my camera is on the upper left. So after some development, Frank has a 6-1 to play. The first game of an 11-point match. 11 away, 11 away. The one is forced, and it's a little bit of an overplay to come out here, to come down here. Should have just went bar 18. In any event, now Anthony can hit with a 5-1, and that's what he does. Now 6-2 for Frank. He comes in with the 2, and he can hit with 13-7. Now Anthony's on the bar, double 1. Okay, so he comes in with the first one, and he can't make another interboard point, and he's just going to safety that checker, 16-13. 6-5 for Frank. So with the 6, he'll probably just want to cover his bar point, although he could bring 2 down, and he can also point on head. All those top plays are close. Looks like the best, according to XG, is to make the bar point and play 23-18, having that spare there, keeping full coverage of the entire board. Double 6. Okay, so that's almost completely forced. He's going to make his 5-point and make his 2-point. Alternatively, he could bring 3 to the 2-point, which is a big blunder, and slot his 5-point. Of course, we're not going to do that. Now 2-1 for Frank. So he can hit, and he's going to have to safety that blot. Anthony's a favorite coming in from the bar. Double 2. Okay, so comes in with the first one. Looks like Anthony actually had a small double there. Now with the double 2. So he's going to come in. All right, and he's going to make, oh, what did he do there? Sorry. He came up and made the 11-point. Now with the 5-1, he plays 17-11. 4-2 for Frank. For Anthony. I know Frank is an outstanding player. I'm not familiar with Anthony, but I'm sure he's a strong player given that he's made it to the finals. 4-3 for Frank. So here he has options. He can hit in 2 different places. He can hit 18-14. He can hit 8-4. He can hit 7-4. And then he could hit like that, 8-4, and either continue and hit a second checker with 4-1 or make the point on head. The advantage of making the point on head is that it makes a stronger board, a 2-point board. The disadvantage is that it breaks that nice prime that's blocking in the other back checker for Anthony. Let's see if Anthony can take advantage. Anthony had another double from the bar, but he rolls a 6-5. He's able to come in and hit. Frank dances. Now is too good to double. In a match, there is no Jacoby rule that's used in money games. The Jacoby rule states that you must double for a gammon or backgammon to count. That moves things along much faster. In a match, that's not the case. There is no Jacoby rule, so you can win an undoubled gammon or backgammon. However, in a match, there is the Crawford rule, which states that when one player gets to 1 point from winning the match, there's no doubling for one game. That gives the leader a little bit of a cushion. So in this case, it's an 11-point match. When one player gets to 10 points, there's no doubling for one game. If the trailer wins that, then the trailer can double at his first opportunity on the next game. Okay, so Frank passes. That's 1-0 in favor of Anthony. I always tell people it's more important to understand the away score. That's how many points each player is away from their goal. Here the goal is 11 points. Anthony has 1, so he is 10 away from that goal. Frank has 0, so he is 11 away from the score. So it's 10 away, 11 away. Frank comes down with a 5-4, and Anthony splits with a 3-2. Now Frank has a 6-4 to play. So he can cover that 9 point. He has a lot of attackers in the zone. 11 checkers. That's really strong. Okay, so that's a 4-1. There's a little bit of a glare. Where is it? So he can hit and bring one down or move one up. He chooses to advance the back checker. 5-4 for Frank. He's able to anchor on the 20 point. Now, Anthony needs to perform 6-4. So he can go all the way to the 10 point from the 20 point, but Frank still has a commanding position with that anchor and attackers. Double 6, so that's a great roll. So he's going to bring 2 out, 24-14, and then it's a matter of whether he's going to continue those to the 8 point or make the bar point. This looks really solid. He's going to have a double next unless Anthony performs. That's not enough of a performance. With the 5-4, it doesn't really matter what he does. It's going to be a pass. He's going to make the 3 point. Now Frank is looking. He's counting the race. We see that Frank is up by 16 pips. He also has a solid 4 prime with lots of spares to attack. You see, Frank is winning 77% of the time and 13% gammons. So the gammons are lopsided. That's a one-way gammonish position where one player wins more gammons than the other. So there, he turns the cube. That's a beautiful cube. And they're playing on Frank's talkie board. A beautiful board to play on. The baffle box is to the left. You are able to see a little bit of it, and they're using a leap clock to the right. So Anthony does pass, and we move on to the next game. Now the score is 1-1, or 10 away, 10 away. So when they roll 2 dice through the baffle box, the red die corresponds to the white and the blue die corresponds to the blue. In this case, so Anthony wins the opening roll 6-2, splits, and now with the 3-2, looks like all the plays are very close. You can go 2 up, or you can duplicate some numbers. You don't want to hit, and you don't want to play 13-8. Alright, now a 3-2 for white. He's going to hit twice. 2-1 for Frank, bringing 2 in from the bar. That's forced. It hits 1 checker back. 5-2 for Anthony. He's able to come in and anchor on the 18 point. Now 5-4 for Frank. He's able to hit from the 23 point to the 14 point, sending another white checker back. Double 1. Okay, so when you roll doubles, go slowly. The first one is forced. Then he wants to make his 5 point, and then he can slot that or split. 2-1 for Frank. So he's just going to bring one down, 14 to 11. Double six. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and probably just one more there and one more to the bar point. He's got a nice racing lead. Another 2-1 for Frank. So with that prime, yeah, he's going to want to move up. It's just a matter of how far. Oftentimes when there's a solid prime, you do want to go up to the edge, especially when it's a 5 prime. With the 4 prime, sometimes you don't want to go all the way to the edge because you can still leap the prime with the 6, and you don't want to be on the point where the opponent wants to make the point that the opponent wants to make immediately next. So here he could just play 24-22 and then unstack with 6 to 5. That gives him some 6s to come out with, although he does want to maintain some contact. But Frank is up in the race, so he knows that. He's going to step up all the way. 4-3. So that's what happens. The other way, he wouldn't have been able to make that point. Okay, 6-1. So the 1 is forced, and he's going to have to dump it deep. Now, he's looking at possibly doubling. This is a borderline no double. White's position is very strong here. Down by 4 pips, but he has a lot going for him. He decides to roll. Double 2. So this was an interesting play because it looks simple to just bring them all trying to break the contact. But looks like XG prefers bringing 2 down to the 9 point. Okay, so now Frank rolls a 5-3. He's going to come down and just slot. Could have also made the 3 point. Okay, so now he's looking at the doubling decision. It's not just the race, because Anthony's slightly behind in the race actually, but you see he's winning 72% of the time. He does double. He's got a solid 4 prime with a 3-point board. The back of the prime is slotted, so he can cover it with 5s or 8s. And Frank has 1 back checker behind the prime, and his board is not good right now. Just a 1-point board with 2 blots in the board, and his 6-point has a big stack of 5 checkers. It's a solid double, and it looks like it's exactly a borderline pass. Take pass. For those not familiar with XG, XG stands for Extreme Gammon. It's the strongest available backgammon software. It analyzes things and it tells you all this information. So in this case, White's going to win 72.26% of the time, 17% gammons, 0.5% backgammons. And you can see all the other information. So Frank does Frank does pass. We go to the 4th game. Just 1 point in each game thus far. Now Anthony leads 2-1. 9 away, 10 away. And with the 2-1, he's going to split his back checkers. Frank rolls a great reply. Double 6. He's going to make both bar points, the 7-point and the 18-point. Now 5-2. Okay, so he's got to cover. He is coming out. That duplicates the 4. So you can see the 4s hit from the 13-point or the 18-point. None of the above. However, he does roll a 6-3, which hits from the 18-point to the 9-point. It liberates one of the back checkers, sends another checker back. It does a lot. Double 6. Okay, that dances. Anthony cannot come in. Frank immediately doubles. This is almost too good to double. And it's a big pass. I want to thank Frank Frigo and Michael Pines for sending me these videos and asking me to do the commentary. It's my pleasure to do this. Okay, so another pass. So now the score is tied. 2-2. 9 away, 9 away. On to the next game. 5-1 for Anthony. He's going to bring one down and split his back checkers. Now Frank, two-time world champion. There are not many two-time world champions. He is the most recent one. Jürgen Grandstedt is the only one that's won it 3 times in the modern era. Tim Holland won it 3 times before it was held in Monte Carlo. And there are a few other two-time world champions, most notably Masayuki Mochizuki, and Akiko Yazawa, both from Japan. Believe there's someone else, can't recall off the top of my head. So now it's 6-3 for Frank. He's going to advance. When you do have that flat structure that white has with only one spare on the 6th point, it's not as dangerous to advance to the edge of the prime. Because if he's going to make the point on head, he will likely have to break the point. Break a point with a 4-3, 4-2, 3-2, something like that. Now Anthony's looking to double. This is a small no double, but it's very reasonable to double here because Frank has an awkward structure. Anthony has some rolls like 5-4, which will make the back of the prime. Also, double 4 or double 2 will do so, although double 4 will likely hit inside. 6-4 will liberate the back checker to complete safety. There are a lot of good rolls here. Frank is thinking about it. And that's a good thought. Always think about it. 4-1. Okay. So, he can safety that and bring one up. It looks like XG likes to just bring 13-8. Leave that blot in front of the stripped midpoint. 3-2. Frank's able to point on head and unstack his 6 point. 6-5. Anthony cannot come in. He dances. Dancing or fanning or flunking means when you cannot come in from the bar. Now 5-4 for Frank. He can make the 3 point, but then it uses the spare on the 8 point. But that's much better than making the 2 point. Anthony dances again with another 6-5. And now Frank is considering redoubling. It's not quite a redouble yet. Frank still has a lot of work to do, despite being 17 pips ahead in the race. But it's always good to look at it. It's always important to look at it. Kit Woolsey said that every roll is a doubling decision when you have access to the cube. And in this case, he does have access to the cube because Frank owns the cube. Anthony, on the other hand, does not. He's already doubled. He decides to correctly roll, so now he rolls a 6-3. So he can't move the back checker. He can advance that other checker and then play safely with the 3 from 6-3. And 4-1 for Anthony. He comes in with the 1 and plays 13-9, slots the back of the prime. Now Frank can hit with a 6-1 or 5-2. No, he rolls a 5-1. So he can make his 2 points, or he can bring one down from the 15 point and advance the checker from the 23 to the 22. That allows him to hit with a 6 should Anthony fail to cover that blot on his 9 point. These are two very reasonable options. If Frank makes the 2 point, it makes a very good use of that third checker on the 3 point. That's called a dilly builder. The only place it can go to until the bear off is to the 2 point or the 1 point. Not a lot of space, so this is kind of a perfect use of it to make the 2 point. That's the next point he would want to make, lower than the 3 point. And he can make it perfectly. On the other hand, usually you have to juggle multiple things like liberating that back checker. XG preferred moving up slightly, but this is definitely reasonable. So now 6-1, he's going to bring one down. And now with the 1, he can just play 9-8. Yeah, that leaves a robust position with spares on the 6, 7, and 8 point. Okay, now Frank is looking again at the doubling decision. He has too much work to do. The 2, he could use a 2 to come up to the edge of the prime, but then there are 3 spares, almost like an avalanche of white checkers. The 2 would also safety the other checker. He does decide to correctly roll, so he's going to want to come up to the edge, and at the same time he can shift from 2 to 1 hitting. That's called a tempo play because it takes away half of Anthony's roll. So now Anthony's going to have to come in first, and now he's going to move up, and he should go up all the way because it brings him to the edge of the prime. Also, it allows him to anchor with a 6. Additionally, if Anthony comes in with a 4-3 or 3-2 and hits with 13 to 10, he'll have 6s to return from the bar. So 6-4, 6-3, 6-2, and 6-1 will hit from the bar. Good find. Double 2. That's a great roll. He comes in and he makes the 4 point on head. Amazing. Now Frank's in trouble. He needs to perform again. So double 1. He does the same thing. 2, 3, and shifting. So he can play 6 to 5. He doesn't want to play 15 to 14 because right now white needs a 3 to enter and a 3 to hit. If he moves 15 to 14, it diversifies Anthony's numbers. So he can come in with a 3 and then hit with the 2. 5-3, so the 3 is forced, and he can either pop out with the 5 to his 17 point or come down 13 to 8. The 2 plays are very close. You would think that since he's behind in the race, he wants to maximize the contact, but that's not always the case. You really have to look at the entire board. Here, white has a solid 5 prime. He doesn't need to stay back. He doesn't need contact. He already has the contact that he wants. He's controlling the and containing that one black checker for Frank. He's thinking about it. It's hard. He doesn't know that it's such a close decision. So you always want to make the best decision. So 6-4. He can make the 9 point, but then he'd leave a blot there. This is the best, just bringing one down. Now 3-1 for Anthony. He just safeties that blot, but it looks like he could have played more bold. 3-2. He's going to come to the edge and just slot the next point. 6-2 is going to come down into the 5 point. Looks like XG prefers bringing 2 down. Interesting. Can't blame him for that play. 5-4. He's just going to bring 2 checkers down. Okay. Anthony's looking to attack. 4-2. Perfect roll. Points on head. Makes a solid 5 prime with a 4 point board. Frank comes in with the 5-1. Now 6-5. He hits. Double 1. No, 6-5. He just slots his 2 point. Double 1. Frank's just going to make his board. Now 5-3. He's going to play 13 to 5. He's just going to want to hold that prime. Now Frank's just hoping not to lose a gammon here. Double 5. Okay, so this is not good for Anthony because he's unable to make the 2 point and retain his 6 prime. He could shift like this, but that's not the right idea. You'd like to keep that 5 prime. And this will help Frank possibly break his board if he rolls bad. Just like that, 5-2 would have danced and would have been able to maintain his board. Now 5-1. So the 5 he's going to play like that. And the 1 is just a matter of whether he's going to play 5-4 or 3-2. But the right play is hitting. He doesn't want to give Frank that chance, especially with that open point on his board. 5-4 is forced to play 5-1. Now 6-1. Now hitting is very close. 5-4 is fine. He does choose to hit with the heavier stack on the 2-point. Frank dances with a 6-2. 6-5, good roll for Anthony. He bears off a checker, covers his blot. Although he is odd even on the top, odd on the highest point, even on the second highest point. That makes things awkward, but 6-3 is a good roll. He's able to bear off 2 checkers and keep everything even. The double-decker position, 2 checkers on every point, except of course the 2-point. 5-3, he clears his 5-point. 5-1, he comes in, and it looks like Frank will likely save the gammon here. 3-2, and 4-2 is going to come out, and Anthony's going to take a 4-2 lead here. He's going to be 7 away, 9 away. When the away scores start getting low, like 5 away or less in a 5-point match, things start getting sensitive. Okay, on to the next game. So, Anthony is leading 7 away, 9 away. When things get closer to the end, the doubling decisions become more sensitive. You want to think about what happens when you double. What happens if you take, if you pass, whether you double or not double. It's always better to be in an even away score because it's easier to win the match efficiently. You need 11 points. You want to get exactly 11 points. You don't need 12, you don't need 13, or anything more than 11. That's called overage, and that's inefficient. It's like running 100 yards, the length of a football field, or imagine it's 110 yards because this is an 11-point match. Okay, once you get to the goal line, that's it. You don't have to run 10 extra yards. If you get 12 points, that's like running 10 extra yards. That's wasting your energy. You don't need to do that. So that's the point. You don't need overage in these matches. 4-1, he plays safe. Now with the 5-2, he can hit twice. He does have an anchor, puts 2 checkers on the bar, and he has a 9th checker in the zone. That's important. All right. Anthony comes in with a 4-1, bringing in both checkers, hitting 1, and sending a 3rd checker back for Frank. Frank rolls a 6-3 from the bar, so the 3 is forced, and with the 6, he'll continue to the 16-point. 6-1 for Anthony. There were 5 checkers on that 8-point. They were stacked, so he makes his bar point. 5-3 for Frank, so he can make his 3-point. That's what he does. He can leave that blot there in front of Anthony's midpoint because he'd have to break the midpoint to leave that. That's a common strategy people use. Leave blots in front of stripped points because the opponent will need to likely break the point and give up usually a valuable asset to hit. So with a 3, and he can play safely behind. Looks like XG preferred coming down. No, yeah, coming down. Oh, double 6. Great roll for Anthony. He's able to bring both checkers out. 4-3 for Frank. Okay, doesn't matter. Now Anthony is counting the race. This is a big pass. So we can see that. We can see that there. Let's see. 30, 60, 76, 94, 120. So you get good at counting with practice, especially when you have shortcuts. 2 checkers on the 7 and 2 checkers on the 8 is 30 pips. And then 2 checkers on the 6 and 2 checkers on the 9 is also 30 pips. So that's 30 and 60. You have 2 checkers on the 8 point, that's 16. So that's 60 and 76, and then 18 pips for the 3 checkers on the 6 point. That makes it 94. The 26 pips for 2 on the midpoint. You add the 6 to the 94. That makes 100 plus another 20. So that's 120. These are the things you do. It looks like it's actually pretty close. It's a small pass. Likely based on the score. There's not a lot of gammons for either players. You can see that 3% or so for white, 1% for black. Biggest problem for black, although white lacks the 5 point, black's position is holy. He has gaps in his board. So he does pass. Now it's 5-2 in favor of Anthony, so 6 away, 9 away. When your away score is even, in particular when it's a value of the cube, such as 2 away, 4 away, 8 away, and so forth, that is a sensitive score, because when you are at 2 away, for example, you can win the match perfectly with perfect efficiency with 2 points. So you can win a single game on a 2 cube, and that wins the match. Now with the 4-1, usually when you slot the ace point, you want to cover it. Although he can hit with the 4, that leaves 2 blots in his board. It does allow him to split the back checkers, but you really want to make an asset of that, out of that liability. 5-3, he comes in with both checkers but fails to hit. Frank has some work to do. 6-1. Okay, so this is not a good roll. He'd like to have covered the blot on his 4 point. He cannot do that. The best he can do is hit and send a third checker back with 23 to 16. However, that leaves 2 blots in his board. Rolls like double 4, double 2, or jokers. 2-1. Okay, so he's going to come in and hit, and then or hit there. Yeah, that looks like the better play. He doesn't need an anchor right now. An anchor is oftentimes a very solid long-term asset, but here with a few checkers in the zone and blots, he doesn't really need it. So 6-2 for Frank, comes in with the 2, and he's just going to play down. Double 5, great roll. So anytime you roll a double, you need to stop, slow down, take a deep breath, and look at all your options. I learned this from John O'Hagan. Oftentimes there are more options with doubles, especially more reasonable options, than with non-doubles. So here he can hit, he can point on head and continue. This is a little bit of an overplay. You don't really want to leave that loose blot. You like having that naked ace point. That was a term coined by Paul Weaver a long time ago. So 2-1, Frank comes in with both checkers. Another 2-1 for Anthony. So how is he going to want to play this? He can play really loose here. He doesn't need to do that. He could have just played bar 23 and moved up. But that's fine. 2-1. Okay, so he's going to be able to hit and make his 4 point with 6-5 and 6-4. Yeah, there you go. Only 7 checkers in the zone, though. That's the attacking zone, the number of checkers you have on your side. The more you have on your side, the more offensive power you have. So Anthony rolls a 6-2 from the bar. He comes in with the 2. That's a 2-6 from the bar. We call it a Ray Fogelin because he's famous for saying that. So with the 6, he doesn't really need to come out. He can just play 16 to 9. That gives him some outfield coverage. He doesn't have to worry about those 3 blots in Frank's board. That's what's called the triple split, or Bill Roberti called that the McGreal split after Paul McGreal. So 5-1. He's unable to cover his blot on his 5 point. Best he can do with this roll is to hit from the 23 point to the 17 point. However, there is the double hit option. 8-3 and then continuing with another hit on the 2-point. Still, XG prefers the hit on the other side. That does send a fourth checker back, gets the back checkers moving, and doesn't leave two blots on the board. 3-2 for Anthony. He's able to come in and hit with bar 20. Good roll. Double 4 for Frank. So he comes in, and then what can he do? He can actually hit twice, 13-5 and continuing to the 1-point, but he doesn't have enough firepower in the zone on his side to continue that blitz. His best bet is to hit from 24 to 16 and then anchor on the 17-point. So always play doubles one at a time or two at a time. Sometimes you want to use two checkers to make a point. But in this case, the first one is forced. Now he sees the best thing he can do with two of them is to hit 24 to 16. And then with the final one, he can make that anchor. Not the best anchor, but at least it's a point. 4-1. Comes in with the 1 and hits. Looks like XG preferred just anchoring. 6-1. So he comes in with the 1, and then he can safety that blot, bring the spare to the 17-point. 5-4 for Anthony. So here, you don't want to make the 20-point. That's going to serve a good purpose there to protect and cover the outfield. And then after that, yeah, he can come out to the 18-point. That's a nice play. Looks like XG slightly prefers slotting the 4-point, which is interesting. He can also make the 18-point there. Yeah, that's actually a better play than the other option. That puts a lot of pressure on the midpoint. Hitting loose is an option, but not the right idea here. Double 2 for Frank. Okay, so the first one is forced, and now you see that you can make the 11-point. Okay, so if you make the 11-point with 13 to 11 twice, where is the fourth 2? He can play 17 to 15, or he can just play safely, or he can just continue the back checker. He does find the right play. Good job, Frank. 5-1 for Anthony. Okay, so he's going to make that second anchor and then play 9 to 3. Doesn't have quite enough timing for a reasonable back game like a 3-5. Although 3-5 you don't really need all that much timing. The other thing is not just the timing. He has some points made that are deep. That's going to be hard. You really need to play pure when you have a back game. That's because after you hit a shot, you really need to contain. That's very important. 4-1 for Frank. Now 3-1 for Anthony. So now that he slotted his ace point, his best bet is to cover it. But he is looking to play to the 20-point. That just leaves the blot there. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to make his ace point. That's deep, especially given that he has 5 checkers back. It's not a great place to have a point, but at least it's an asset because he makes a 3-point board. Now Frank's looking to double here. Because of the score, it's a borderline double. He decides to roll, not an error. He rolls a 2-1. He's just going to make the 10-point. 2-1 for Anthony. He just plays up. There Frank had a double, but he played, he rolled, so he rolls a double 1. So what can he do? Let's see. Here's what happens. What do you do? 11 to 9, there you go, twice. And now you want to try to block the same numbers everywhere. So if you play 11 to 9 twice, double 5s becomes really bad. Looks like XG prefers bring the 2 checkers on the 17-point up. 3-1. Okay, so he's going to play down and continue. Now, oh, that was a good double for Frank. He missed it. Maybe he's playing on. Might think it's too good. You know, when you're bearing in against two anchors, you oftentimes have challenges. However, once the opponent has made deep points in the board, it's like those anchors are almost useless, because you really need those anchors to make the Baron awkward so that you can get a shot. And when you hit the shot, I call it a critical shot in my book about back games, you have to be able to contain it. White has no containment value here. These are some strong doubles. 6-2. He's going to make the bar point. 5-4, bringing 2 down. 2-1. He's able to make the 5 point. He doesn't care about being hit. Might actually help his timing. Double 4 for Frank. So he can't move, or he doesn't have a back checker actually. So he's ahead of the race. He just wants to race. Bring him 2 to the midpoint and just continue all the way down. Now what you want to look at is how your numbers play. What are the awkward numbers? So he's going to want to clear from the 10 point. From the 10 point, 5s are blocked. Does he have spares to play 5s? Yes, he has 3 spares on his 9 point to safely play a 5, and 1 on his 6 point to play one from 6 to 1. So that's actually good. You want to look at the next point you want to clear. What are the numbers that are blocked from there, and ensure that you have spares elsewhere to safely play such numbers. 6-1, he's going to bring one in. Now Frank has a strong double. So he rolls a 4-2. That's a good roll because it clears. Clears the next point he wants to clear. 6-1. Just going to come in. Or save a 6. Okay, so now Frank doubles. Usually the general idea is when you have 3 points to clear above the 2 anchors, when you're bearing in against the back game, if you're threatening to clear that 3rd point, that's when the doubling window starts. Here it's a little bit different because White has deep points. He has 2 gaps, so that's a major liability for him. Also, at the same time, Frank has a gap on his 7 point, but it's not a big deal. You see the 5s, what are they blocked? The 4s are blocked, right? From the highest point, the 9 point, and 6s. He does have 2 spares on the 8 point to play 6s twice. You could also use them for 4s as well as 2 spares to play 4s from the 6 point. It is still a take, but it's almost a pass. So now Frank rolls a 6-3. The 6 is forced, and the 3 he played 9-6. 3-2. He's going to play 7-4, and he can continue. Now Frank rolls a double 6, so that's completely forced. Now things are going to start to get awkward. 3-1. Okay, so he can make his 4 point. Don't know why he made the 2 point. You really need a pure structure. You want to make the high points in order. 3-2. He's able to clear 1 checker off the 9 point. So that's the 2, and he's going to play 3 there. That's a good roll for Frank. Double 3. That's just a little bit too much, more than he wanted. He's going to have to play off the higher anchor. He's too far behind in the race to... well, actually, he can't play off the lower anchor anyway. So he wants to maintain that lower anchor that blocks 6s. 5-2, so he's going to play to the 4 point, and Or he can play 2 off the 6 point. He can play from 9 to 2, or play 2 to the 4 point with 9-4, 6-4. So that means he's considering 2 off the 6 point or 9-4, 6-4, which he does. 4-3 is going to bring one down. That's a builder for the 4 point, and the other one down. Just another crossover. That'll save more gammons. 4-3. Okay, so now is the point that he wants to clear and leave a shot with 9-5, 9-6, or he can play safe with 6-2, 4-1. Looks like XG prefers the latter. If he does that and leaves a shot and then he rolls a double 6, that's really bad. It's harder to clean up the lower blots than higher blots. It's very difficult to know when to break an anchor. Okay, so he wants a 5, 6-3, so the 6 is forced and he's going to safety that 3 with a 5-2, 4-3 for Anthony. He can play all the way or run with one checker. Frank's just looking to clear safely. He rolls a 5-4, the 5 is forced, and he can play 4 off or 6-2. 4 off is better, nice. 6-3, so that forces Anthony off. Now Frank has some pick and pass numbers. 3-2 is one of them. He can hit and pass. Looks like XG prefers 4-1 and 2 off. Can't blame him. 6-4, Anthony dances. 6-2, the 6 is forced, and he's just going to clear the 6 point. 6-1, Anthony comes in. Frank has some small gammon chances, very small, less than 2%. 6-3, you always want to come in perfect with 6s if you can to save the gammon. 5-4 for Frank, he bears off 2 checkers. 4-3 comes to the 9 point, and Frank's going to need 2 doubles followed by a 2-1, but no. Okay, so that's gin. Anthony resigns a single game on a 2 cube, so Frank goes to 4. So now the score is 6 away, 7 away in favor of Anthony. You know, Michael Pines and Frank Frigo have recently in the last few years done a really good job to expand the San Diego club, and he's very happy to share what he's done. Great roll by Frank. He hits 2, makes the point on head, very strong position. Anthony's going to need to perform. Double 2, that's good. So he comes in with 2 and he's going to hit back. Good roll, good play. 4-2 for Frank. So what is he going to do? You can safety the blot on his 8 point with 8-4. Looks like XG prefers 13-9. (4-2) for Anthony. He can make his 4 point. Nothing he can do on the other side. 4-3 would have been able to make the 20 point. That's what I would have done rather than make the 5 point with a 4-3. Okay, so 5-4. He can run out all the way. Looks like there was a hitting play that was better. 6-4 would have danced in that case, but now 6-4 he can make the 9 point and come out. That's what he does. All right. Now Frank rolls a 4-3. He brings that down, so he's looking at either making the 10-point or hitting. Hitting does have a tempo. Takes away half of Anthony's rolls. And you'll notice if he hits, Anthony will be able to hit with 5s from the bar, but that's duplicated to come in. So he would need a 5 to come in. So he makes a 10-point, and now Anthony anchors. It looks like it was better to play 18-11. Okay, so double 6 for Frank. He's going to bring 2 down. And what's he going to do with the other 2? He's not going to want to play 24-18 because then he's going to have to play one more, and that's going to leave loose blots. So he can continue all the way to the ace point, making that, but that strips everything else. This is the best play. Although it does leave that back checker stranded, it leaves a lot of flexibility in the front to attack. 4-2. He's going to want to run out. Okay, that's the wrong idea. Frank is looking to attack with all those checkers. It's a small no double. Double 1. Okay, so that's a good roll. So he can make his 5-point like that, and then he can hit loose. Nice play, very strong play. That's going to win a lot of gammons. 6-3, so the 3 is forced, and he's going to come out all the way. That was a good roll. Good roll. Now, this is a borderline double. Look at that. Probably because of the score. Look, black's winning a lot more gammons. You see that? Black only wins 57% of the time, but 22% gammons to only 5% gammons for white. If black rolls a 1 with a number that covers, like 5-1 or 4-1, he has really good gammon chances. Frank's thinking about this. There are other rolls like double 6, which will hit from the 24 points and make the ace point. He's also ahead in the race by 26 pips. Taking all these things into consideration. Okay, double 4. So he's going to need to start moving the back checker, being ahead so far in the race. So he can do that, but he really needs to move things up and make that point. So he does those, and he just brings one back. He's going to need to do something about that back checker soon. 5-1 for Anthony. He's going to safety that blot on a 16 point. So he can clear the 17 point, but he really wants that contact. So better just play 16 to 11. Add a builder for the 5 point. Then he can play 9 to 8. So he's looking at his options. That leaves a 6-4 to hit. Or double 6. That's 3 numbers. If he brings it down, now it's 6-4 and 6-5. That's 4 numbers. This is the play. This gives a lot of good numbers to make the bar point or the 5 point. Here we probably want to make the bar point with something like a 6-1 next, just because there's that one back checker. Alright. Small no double. Another double 4. So again, he really needs to get things moving, despite the fact that white has all those builders. He is staying back. I think he's going to regret this after looking at the match file. 4-3 for Anthony. So 4-3. He can make his 5 point, making the best 3-point board. That's called the rack by Bill Roberti. There you go. It does leave a 6-2, 6-4, and double 6. 5 numbers. But what's the alternative? Okay, so that's the 4. And then you're not going to want to bring it all the way down. Oh, like that. Okay. 6-1. So he plays the 6 out. Looks like all the 1s are close. Plays 3-2. 6-3. Okay, so he's going to hit and continue. Looks like it's better to bring another builder down and leave that shot. Frank dances with a double 6. All right. Now a 6-4 for Anthony. So he can make the 2 point, although that does strip the 6 point and makes those awkward dilly builders on the 4. Nope, that's not where it was. I think Frank's going to point that out to him. That's not the original position. There was the checker on the 6 point should be on the 8 point. Yeah, there were 2 there. Yep. He's showing it to him. They found the original position, so they unpause the clock. Comes down with 2. Alright. Frank's going to need a 6-5. No, he rolls a 4-2. Comes in with a 2, that's forced. And now 6-2. 2-1, good roll. He's able to make his bar point, make a solid 4' and a broken 5' multiple builders to make that 5 point. 5-3, good roll. He's able to escape. Now he needs an ace. Anthony needs an ace. No, he rolls a 5-4. Okay, so now Frank is up by 28 pips. This is a big double, almost 2 go to double. Can you believe that? It's just a pass. It's a big pass. You just count the race. There. Double. He's counting the race. He's behind by 28 pips with a baseline of 64. One thing I generally do in these medium to long races is count the doubler's pip count. In this case it's 64. Take 10% of that. That's 6.4 pips. That's around the doubling window. When you're behind 28, that's just a massive pass. Not even close. So now it's 5-5. 6 away, 6 away. 2-1 for Frank. He slots the 5 point. Now Anthony rolls a 6-5. He runs all the way, lover's leap, 24-13. He's unable to hit. What is he looking at? Oh no. No, that's the wrong idea. He finds it. Alright, 5-2. He's going to make his 3 point. He would have liked to have made his 5 point, but 3 point is still an asset. Anthony rolls a 3-1. He's able to make the 5 point. That's a great roll. Double 4. So he's unable to move his back checkers, but he can either make 2 points in his board, the 4 point and the 2 point, or make his 5 point. The benefit of making the 5 point is it brings 2 more checkers in the zone. However, the checker on the 11 is no longer a builder for the 5 point. Does make a 3 point board. The other way, you can make a 4 point board but not have as many checkers in the zone. This one's a little better according to XG. So 2-1, he's going to bring one down and unstack and slide one from 6 to 5 to improve the distribution. 5-2 for Frank. So he doesn't have a good 5, so he can hit and split. That's very thematic. Oftentimes when you do hit, it's a good time to split because you're taking away half of the opponent's roll. So that's the 1, and now he has a few options with the 5. That's the best one because he can unstack the midpoint and redistribute a spare to the 8 point, which is stripped. 6-4, so he comes in with the 4, and with the 6, he can either continue or play from the 22 point to link up all the checkers. That means they're all within 6 points of each other. This has the advantage of putting a builder on the 5 point. However, he's going to want to do something. The other thing about 22 to 16 is it duplicates the 4s and 2s, which hit on the 9 point and on the 4 point, as well as the 6-4, which could hit from 23 to 14. 24 to 14. Okay, so he does choose that. This does have the advantage of not being on the edge of the prime. This is not quite a double yet. He still has a lot of work to do, despite the fact that he has numbers to hit. 3s and 1s will hit, and a 6-4 will hit. But Frank has a 3 point board. So he takes double 1. That's a good roll. He's able to make his 3rd point, the rack, and hit a checker, put a checker on the bar. Very strong roll for Anthony. 6-3 for Frank. Okay, so the 3, and now he's just going to play 11 to 5. Now Anthony's a solid favorite. 5-1. Okay, so he can safety with 10 to 4. Looks like XG prefers coming out with a good racing lead. 5-3. He's unable to move the back checkers. Not a good roll. He can clear the 8 point, or he can bring 2 checkers down. You don't like breaking the midpoint when you still have checkers back. However, it's not as bad once you have an advanced anchor. And clearing the 8 point looks like an error here, although it does keep the midpoint. What happens is you lose all the control in your outfield, and you're going to have to give up something if you don't roll something like a 6-5 or a 6-4 or something. So that's a 4-1. There's a little bit of a glare. He can just play down. If he plays 8 to 4, that stacks 2 checkers on the 4 point. Doesn't like that. So he plays 13-8. Good choice. 6-1. Okay, so this is what happens. This is why it was better to break the midpoint on the last roll. Yeah, he's going to have to keep things connected. And he can play 5 to 4 or 3 to 2 like that. That duplicates the hitting aces on the 23 and the 7 point. Okay, so he rolls a 4-1. He's got a hit on the 24 point. That gains the most in the race. And he can't continue with the 4. He's just going to have to play that way. 8 to 4, stacking another checker. 5-2, good roll for Frank. He's able to anchor on the 18 point. 5-2 for Anthony. So he can come all the way out, but better is to stay back or come out partially. Yeah. 6-2, not a good roll for Frank. Now he's got to break his midpoint. He does have the benefit of having those 2 anchors, one in the board on the 22 point and one on the 18 point. So 5-2, he's able to hit with the 2 and come down with the 5, just safety. 5-2, able to come in and go to the 18 point. 4-3, so what did he do? It's a 4-3. It looks like a 3-2, but it was a 4-3. There, he corrected it. It's a 4-3. He's looking to play 2 off the 8 points. Looks like XG prefers making the 10 point, leaving that direct 6 shot, because the next point that Anthony wants to clear is his midpoint, and that just takes care of it right away, and it makes a point 7 away from the other anchor. That's what some people call a Cinderella point. If you're 6 points away from an anchor, it's hard to clear that point. But if you're 7 points, it's really easy. Okay, so he does clear his 8 point. Now 5-4, he's just going to run off the 18 point to the 9 point. What else is there? He could make his 2 point. Alright, 4-1. He's going to safety and play behind. He's up big in the race. He just wants to play safe. 5-4. So he can make a point in his board. 2 point would be better, but making the ace point saves some 6s. Now 6-4. No, that's not legal. Yeah, there it is. He has to play safe. The 6 is forced. Alright, now things are getting awkward. 5-2 for Frank. So he doesn't want to touch the back checkers. He needs that contact. He's going to play 9-4 and continue to the 2 point, or he can play 7-5, or he can play 5-3. Looks like XG says it's close to come out from the back too. Very interesting. I don't think I would have seen that play. I would like to keep the contact. 6-4. So there is no 6. He's forced to play a 4, and he has 3 choices. He's got to leave that. That duplicates the 3s that hit and cover. He gets it. He gets a 3-2, so he's going to hit with the 3. Now do that. Anthony is very nice, picking up his own checker for Frank. Some people get really upset when you do that. Anyway, now he's safetying. He doesn't have to safety because Anthony has a blot on his board. Would have been better to just continue. Okay, 2-1. So 2, and now, look, he can hit twice. The benefit of that is it really unstacks. Alternatively, he can play 2-1, shifting. Of course, 5-4 would be terrible. So after coming in and hitting, he cannot continue with that checker. It's blocked. So what are his options with the 1? He's just putting it back to look at the original position. This is allowed, and this is fine. But if the half of the play is forced, oftentimes it's easier to just put it down and then look for the ace. So although 4-3 leaves 2 blots, it does have the benefit of putting 2 checkers on the bar against the 3-point board and unstacking that really heavy 4-point. If you have 5 checkers on a point, that's too many. 6 checkers on the point is even more than that. That's really bad. You need to do whatever you can to unstack that. Okay. So now Frank is looking at possibly redoubling because he can hit with an ace, or he can hit with a 6 or a 5 if he fails to enter with an ace. If he enters with a 6 or a 3. So a double 6, 6-5, 5-3, and 6-3. That's a lot of numbers. 3. Okay. Yeah. And double 3 also. Okay. Not quite a redouble, but he does, and Anthony correctly takes. Oh, there he takes. 6-3, great roll. He's going to come in with the 3 and hit with the 6. Nice roll. So now there's a 4 cube. 4-2, great roll. He's able to come in and anchor. Nice roll. Double 3, okay. So doubles, these are hard. Okay, so with 2 of them, he can certainly make his 2-point. That makes perfect use of those checkers on the 5-point. And then, what is he going to do with the rest? So, he does have that anchor on the 22-point. He can keep that and play 18 to 15. So, if Anthony hits with a 1, for example, he can't play like a 2-1 or a 6-1 or a 4-1. Those cause a lot of problems. So, leaving that blot there is rather safe. It's just a matter of which anchor he wants to move, from the 22 to the 19, or does he want to play 18 to 15? Basically, you want to think about what's going to happen in the next 2 roll sequence. So what's going to happen? Yeah, that's for sure. And then he can move there. So white's going to have to move something, and probably white's not going to want to leave the anchor. So he's going to play off the midpoint. So that leaves a little bit more room. Okay, so there's the 4-1. He can't even afford to hit. He must break his 5-point. He has to play safe against that 5-point board. Now when in matches when cubes get higher than 2, that's a lot of points. So if you win 4 points in an 11-point match, that's over 30%. Almost 40% of the points you need. If you win a gammon, that's almost all. That's like 3/4 or so. So that's a lot. So if someone wins a single game, they get to 9, which is 2 away. That's a very valuable score. If the cube goes to 8, either player will get to 13, so that's 2 points of overs. So he does play like that. Okay, so now with the 5-3, he can play all the way from 13 to 5. Or he can make that 10-point. That nicely blocks the 6s. Alright, double 5. Okay, so Anthony sees that he's ahead in the race, so he's going to start coming out. And then after that, he's just going to want to continue all the way. This does block the 5s from the back anchor, but that's not the right idea. He doesn't want to block Frank's checkers. He's ahead in the race. He doesn't want to try to contain him. He just wants to bring things home. And disconnecting his back checkers by making the 8-point will make it harder for him to come home and harder for him to clear that 8-point. This is the right play. This is the right idea. He's looking at it. It's always important to look at all your options. For me, for sure, some of my biggest errors are when I don't even see the right play. That happens to me most when I'm tired. And I'm tired a lot because I have 2 young children. Alright, so he does make the 8-point. 5-4. Okay, so these ones are very difficult. He's looking at playing all the way from the 22-point to the 13-point. So what does that do? It duplicates the hitting 5s. Actually makes the 5s pretty bad. Yeah. Now he can hit with a 6. 5-2. Not a good roll. He can play 8-1 safely, relatively safely, or 16-9, which duplicates the 6s. Looks like the plays are essentially tied on XG. When you study moves on XG, you want to hit that ++ icon at the bottom. That gives you the highest level of analysis. That's basically a mini or a truncated rollout. It plays the position many times to identify the best play. There's also 1-ply, 2-ply, which moves, which looks at the position 1 roll ahead for 1-ply, 2 rolls ahead for 2-ply, and so forth. 3-ply, 4-ply, and so forth. And then you can actually roll out the position by clicking on that solid green icon with the 5 green bars, 5 vertical green bars, and that will play out the position many times, usually 1,296 times. That's the square of 36. Okay, so 4-2 for Frank. So that's blocked from the 15 point, but he can go to the 11 point and then slot his 4 point with the 2. Alright, now Anthony can hit with the 2. He gets it. The 2, and then he's not going to want to continue with that because that'll leave 6s to hit. So he'll hit with the 2 and then play 16-11. So Frank can hit with 5s, but 6-5 would be duplicated because he can hit on either one with a 6-5. Additionally, it's nice to leave that 5 there. Well, he can't move that. He can play 8-1, but that's not the right idea, especially because Frank has a blot on the board. After hitting, Frank would need a 5 to come in, but also a 5 to hit back. So in that sense, the 5 is duplicated. You always want to think about concepts like duplication. If you leave the same number as something good on both sides of the board or in 2 areas, that's called duplication, and that's what he's doing. Double 6. Okay, so it does not hit, but he can come in. He'll probably want to keep that one checker back, and now he can make his board. Notice how he can play 22-4. He can play 22-16, 16-10, and 10-4, just like that. Now he has a closed board. So Anthony has to be careful. He doesn't want to leave blots. 4-1. Okay, so that's good. He can make his bar point. Anything else is a blunder. Alright, now 6-4 for Frank. That does not hit. I think he's got to keep, with the 25 pip racing deficit, he'll be down by 15 pips. He needs to maintain the contact. This is going to become challenging because Anthony owns the cube. Six. So he's looking to possibly stay back and play 5-1, or just bring things in. Bring down, break that contact from the midpoint. I think that's what he wants to do. That's what XG likes. That is what he does. Now, Anthony is looking at redoubling. So, it's a small redouble, but not a big error to redouble here. What happens is the cube becomes killed. So nobody can redouble. So there is 0 recube vigorish. If you look at the cubeless equity for no double and double, it's 0.256 and 0.450. For redouble take, it's exactly 0.450, which is exactly the same. The cubeless equity equals the cube full equity. That indicates that the cube has 0 value. There is no recube vigorish. In a money game, if you own the cube, you would have some vigorish, some added value associated with owning the cube, because you would be able to redouble. But in this case, you cannot. The cube is dead. Furthermore, now gammons become killed. So neither player is winning many gammons, but that becomes irrelevant. It becomes DMP. It becomes double match point. This is a very comfortable take, in which he does. So this is going to be for the match. Whoever wins this game will win the match. 4-3. He's able to safety all the way. So now he is a big favorite, but Frank still has chances. He has a 6-3. He's going to come and maintain that contact. Anthony's looking to clear. 5-1. He clears. And he's just going to continue with the 1. 4-3. He's got to stay back, although it's actually not too bad to run because of all that inefficiency in White's board. 6-5. Great roll for Anthony. That clears. Double 5. Great roll. Comes all the way to the 2-point. Now it's almost a 50-50 game. It's going to be a dice rolling contest. 5-4. He's going to bear off 2 checkers. This is getting exciting. Double 5 for Frank. Great roll. He's coming back. He bears off 4 checkers. 2-1 for Anthony. Not a good roll. Now Frank rolls a 6-4 to bear off 2 checkers. Now Frank's a big favorite, a 3-1 favorite. Double 2. Okay, so that's a good roll for Anthony. He bears off 3 checkers. Double 4. That's a great roll. Now Anthony's going to need to perform. 6-1. He bears off 2 checkers. It's getting too little too late. Anthony's going to need a double. 3-2. That's it. He's unable to win. That is Gin. Frank wins the match. Congratulations to Frank. They will play another one since this is a double elimination tournament. Frank's coming in from the single elimination bracket, so now each player has 1 loss. So they will play a rubber match, a 9-point match for the grand final. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this special video, the commentary on a match between Frank Frigo and Anthony Niakiani from the 2024 championship of the San Diego Backgammon Club. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, what you'd like to see in future videos so I can work on that. Thank you again to Michael Pines and Frank Frigo for allowing me to use this video in the commentary and sharing it with me. I will have another video of the final match hopefully soon. Again, my book, Backgammon, Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is in the description. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. And until then, keep rolling your dice.